Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for being here today. We are doing this public lecture as part of the Heritage Week, and we will have Asrat, our senior researcher of Cultural and Political Change Group, talking about sacred ecologies, the Kara ritual of the Konso. So thanks for coming, and Asrat, the floor is yours.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming today. Let me just first briefly thank Kim from the TRA5. Hi, Kim, and Aline for co-organizing this event. Heritage Week was something that we started last year. I'm really glad to see it develop into a yearly thing. Having said that, let me also briefly introduce what this is about, a broader view for you. What I will present today is part of our research into the local dynamics of cultural landscapes in East Africa, two cultural landscapes in East Africa, one in Ethiopia and one in Kenya. The project is funded by the Volkswagen and is a partnership project between the University of Bonn, the ZEF at the University of Bonn, Dila University in Ethiopia, and Kenyatta University in Kenya. But what I will present today will mainly focus on the Konso cultural landscape in Ethiopia. This was supposed to be a panel, but as sometimes happens, life got in the way, and two of our guests who were supposed to stay 2 months here had to leave early to their countries. So I can't have a panel all by myself. Let's make it a lecture then. All right. I mean, just a brief mention of heritage and memory, because heritage cannot be understood separate from memory and sense of identity and the past. Heritage is usually defined as, not defined, but talked about as being of great things, as talking of great things, great events, and great people. It talks of in a way, it's framed in a way that creates nostalgia for past events. But heritage is also about the present. It's also about the future. It's where our notion of who we were, who we are today, and who we will become in the future are all connected. In recent years, there has also been great discussion of not of great things, proud histories, but also difficult histories and difficult heritage. For example, heritage that deals with the Holocaust. That is not nostalgia for the past, but sort of a difficult past that people have to come to terms with. But inevitably, all heritage is linked to memory and identity. What we should not lose from the past, what we should hold dear, and what we dare not forget. So within this framing, where do cultural landscapes come in? Well, cultural landscapes as world heritage, as sites of heritage, specifically within the framework of the UNESCO, came to the world stage. I think in 1992. The scholar who defined them first as a place fashioned from a natural landscape by a culture, by a cultural group. Culture is the agent, the natural environment, the natural arena is sort of the canvas. This was in 1925, Karl Sauer. So cultural landscapes have been framed as being products of the combined works of man and nature since 1925, but only became sites of heritage in 1992 when they were included in the World Heritage List and incorporated into the World Heritage Framework. The first cultural landscapes were inscribed into the World Heritage List in 1993. There are currently, I think, more than 100 and close to 130, maybe more. They were celebrated as one of the ways to improve the diversity of the World Heritage List. Especially in terms of, making it representative of the collective heritage of humanity across the world and the globe. But despite that promise, of the over 120 cultural heritage sites, cultural landscapes that are heritage sites in the world, nearly 50% of them are found in Europe. Only 14 are found in Africa, for example. If you compare Africa to Europe in terms of size, in terms of population, in terms of cultural diversity, it's a world of difference. So despite that promise, cultural landscapes as heritage sites still continue to be heavily dominated by European culture and European landscapes. Just also to say, cultural landscapes, it's implicit in the phrasing itself, but it is not about the landscape. It is the culture that produces the landscape. Yes, it's a dynamic interaction between culture and nature, but it is usually articulated in such a way that it's the culture that leaves its mark on the landscape. However, this is also not entirely true, because it is the landscape, it is the culture, the environment that also leaves its mark on culture and how societies organize and interact with that particular environment. So cultural landscapes are products of unique interactions between humans and the natural environment. But mainly they are cultural. And the culture is what makes the landscape a heritage site or just an ordinary landscape. Within the UNESCO framework, cultural landscapes are included in the World Heritage List based on this idea of outstanding universal value. Of course, all landscapes are cultural. What makes a particular cultural landscape worth including into the World Heritage List as a representative, as a treasure of the combined culture of humanity. It is that outstanding universal value. There needs to be something that makes that cultural landscape quite unique, but also not just unique, but also relevant to all of humanity. So there is already this tension between the uniquely local, which has produced that particular landscape, and the global, the universal. So it's an attempt at it, in a way, it's an attempt to universalize the uniquely local. This notion of outstanding universal value is also tied to notions of integrity and notions of authenticity, which are very prominent in the UNESCO framework. With that, let me take you to southern Ethiopia, to Konso. It's a small spatial zone in the current Ethiopian political structure, with a population of about 350,000 people at the moment. The language is called Konso. The Konso also refer to themselves sometimes as Konsita. It's an ethno-linguistic community with a very complex social organization. It was incorporated into the Ethiopian state or the Ethiopian empire in 1897, but lived as a self-governing community before that. The Konso have a diverse, they have diverse narratives about their origin. Some say they came over from the neighboring Borana communities, but there are also narratives of origin that narrate that the first Konso man and woman came out of a huge gourd. A gourd grew so large that, and it split and revealed the first Konso person. So this this narrative seems to suggest that they had indeed lived in the area for quite a long time. And archaeological evidence from the area also has revealed tools, human tools, dating as far back as 1.4 million years. So despite what seems to be a recent history, it is in fact possible that the Konso had lived in that area for longer than historically established at the moment. Historically, the Konso lived in the mountains, in the hilltops. If you see the settlement pattern here, these are all highlands above 1,500 meters, extending all the way to 2,000 meters. These are mid-highlands and the lowlands. And they historically lived in compact, densely populated settlements, heavily fortified, and farmed the hills and valleys and the lowlands as well. I think there are currently around 35 remaining settlements, walled settlements. It's quite difficult to distinguish, or at least it's difficult to decide whether to call these villages or towns, because they have a town-like structure. Houses are compactly built together. The roads are narrow and quite a mess. And if you go into one settlement, it's really difficult to find your way out. Social organization has more of a town feel to it than a rural, and there are important cultural spaces called mora, which I will come to later, that almost serve as town squares. So I will just keep referring to them as humans, as Konso settlements, to not make that decision. There are around 35. Out of these, 11 have been included into the UNESCO World Heritage framework as World Heritage Sites. According to oral histories, what led the Konso to congregate in these settlements and to occupy the tops of the hills? I'll show you one picture here. If you see here, I'm not sure if you can make it out clearly, but there is a settlement at the top. And then, of course, they farmed the hills. This is the walled town of, well, the walled settlement of Mechake on the top of a hill. There's also a second one here. You can clearly make out the settlement here. There's this one, Buso, but there is also another one at the top of the next hill, which you can barely make out here. So according to oral histories, what led the Konso to congregate in these settlements together was threats from the neighboring the tribes and communities, and also threats posed by wild animals. A lot of these, you can't see it very clearly here, but a lot of these settlements are fortified with stone walls, dry stone walls. In some places, they are as okay. And the daily administration and governance of society moved from the clans to the complex social organization we will see later. Yes, the Konso are agricultural. They because of the terracing, the extensive terracing of the land and the terrain, they do not use ox-drawn plows as in the rest of Ethiopia. They use hand hoes, which are called paira, and this is also typical of Konso. So, with all of that, what made the Konso cultural landscape a World Heritage Site? And this is articulated in the nomination document and in the way UNESCO talks about it. Extensive agricultural terrains are not unique to Konso, of course. They can also be found in other parts of the world. And stone settlements and fortifications are also not unique. But according to UNESCO, what makes Konso, the Konso cultural landscape unique is the presence of these two things together and the immense social organization that has resulted out of this or has made this possible in the first place. So they talk of spectacularly executed dry stone terraces, which are still actively used and maintained. And they say this bears testimony to the enormous efforts required to use the otherwise hostile environment. And the hostile environment here is a reference to the arid environment. Konso is one of the Konso has very little rainfall and it's erratic. When it falls, it's torrential downpours. So it's extremely prone to erosion because of the terrain as well. So because of this, if these extensive agricultural terracing wasn't there, and as well as the different indigenous water and soil conservation technologies, which I will not go into detail here. If it wasn't for these, then agricultural life here wouldn't have been possible. So, with that, let's go to the Kara. The Kara is a series of rituals that takes place over a period of 2 months every 7 and 11 years. Why 7 and 11 years? we will go into that in a moment. But it's important to state here from the beginning that there is a lot of diversity, local diversity, in the culture of the Konsos themselves. So the Kara is a sort of a power transition ritual that happens every 18 years. It happens every 18 years in almost all of the settlements, but follows different calendars and different cycles. In the three villages that, in the three settlements that we did this study, they follow a 7-11 sort of separation. There are places where, of course, this is the 18 years are divided into 2 divisions of 9, and there are places where the Kara follows a 6-6-6 segment that also, of course, adds to 18. But despite whichever combination is used, the Kara is a ritual marking the transfer of authority, the transfer of responsibilities from one generation to the next. And in order to understand this, it's also important to understand the social organization of the Konso. Like I said, 9 clans, all living together in settlements. How do you administer that? How do you, as it was their need back then, bring society together to defend against aggression, protect your settlements, and so on and so on. So again, there is also immense local diversity here, but the Helta system in Konso is an age grading system that broadly divides society into 3. There are places, there are traditions that go up to 5, but this is the broad classification. There are children, there are young men, and then there are old men. The children's job is to grow up and become young men, of course. But the young men's job is to protect their community, to serve their community, to enforce local rules and customs. And what is the responsibility of the older generation? They collectively comprise the arbitration function. So they are the ones who settle disputes, who pronounce judgments, and so on and so on. So within this structure, the Kara mainly celebrates the coming of age of young men and their assumption of social responsibility, collective responsibility, and the retirement of the generation before them. So things like defending the territory, maintaining social order, organizing collective labor. For example, all of the terraces that we saw earlier in the pictures and the pictures we will see outside, these are not feats that were achieved in 1 or 2 years. This was done over centuries. This required a tremendous amount of organizing labor and so on. And the Helta system provides that, as well as maintains social order and cohesion. So we have 9 clans, 1 Helta system, of course, with 2 different breakdowns. And 2 generations, and I'm going to get into that in a moment, but all in one community. The 2 generations, again, there is also a variation here. In places where they follow the 6-6-6 sequence, they have 3 different generations instead of 2. But because the settlements, the communities we did this research in, follow the 7 plus 11 distinction, there are 2. And these are the Kalkusa and the Hirpa. The Kalkusa were the first seniors, the firstborn. And the Hirpa are the later born. But these, again, became hereditary. So if I am from a Kalkusa family, I am automatically a Kalkusa. If I am from a Hirpa family, I am automatically a Hirpa. And power transitions from these two every 18 years. So the Kalkusa administer 18 years and hand over power to the Hirpa, which then administer for 18 years and hand it back to Kalkusa. It's an alternating system of governance. And locals these days compare it to a two-party system of governance. In a sense that there are two parties, there are two broad parties, and each party gets to administer, to rule for 18 years and hands it over. But within the Kalkusa and the Hirpa themselves, there are also juniors and seniors. So for that 18 years, 7 is administered by the juniors and 11 by the seniors. And the Kara marks both of these power transitions from Kalkusa and Hirpa every 18 years, and within Kalkusa and Herpa in 7 and 11 years. This is the Kara route for the 3 settlements of Dokatu, Hulme, and Burukutta. These are 3 settlements, 3 of the world settlements that are included in the UNESCO World Heritage List as World Heritage Sites near the town of Kara. And the Kara, whether it happens 7 years or 11 years, always has followed the same route, the same path. It happens along this route with transecting these important ritual places. But what is interesting here is that the Kara route is not a path, it's not a road. It does not physically exist. And the first task when a Kara commences is to clear the path, to make it again. Because for the next 7 or 11 years, that path is not going to be used, and it will, of course, grow vegetation, become untravelable, and so on. So in a way, it exists only in memory and in imagination, not in physical reality. Major ritual sites, we will see some of them next, are also unmarked. They are just open spaces. These are places of huge cultural significance, but there is no marking, there is no denotation. So this is one of the main cultural spaces for the Kara. This is where the Kara starts and ends. The first thing after a Kara is announced is people come here and go around this tree clockwise, marking, sort of symbolizing a note. And they say the Kara has been tied. And for the next 2 months, a series of events, a series of rituals, a series of festivities happen, after which they return and go around the other way to symbolize that it has now been, the knot has been untied, the ritual is complete. There, as you see, it is as ordinary as a place as you can imagine, but occupies huge symbolic and cultural significance. Following the tying of the Kara, once a Kara has been announced, the next event is what they call the Hoisa, and this involves performing as prayers and songs twice a day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, at the site we will return later. The Kara is mainly 3 events. One is the preparation, the prayer. The second is the hunt, followed by the celebration of the hunt. And then the third is the erection of the Daga di Ruma, which we will see. And here, in preparation for the hunt, prayers, these ostrich feathers are worn, and the men come here every morning and evening, imploring the sky, the earth, asking them to deliver the animal that needs to be hunted and killed. The animal required to complete the ritual is either a lion or a leopard. And for 9 days, they come here asking, there are songs about, asking the lion to drop out of the sky, asking the lioness which is hiding in this and that mountain to come out, reveal herself, and so on and so on. After this preparation ritual, what follows is the hunt. But the hunt is also an extended ritual involving a series of ceremonies. First, the spears of the men are taken to Pokoltita, who is the wife of Pokola, who is a clan chief, who is a spiritual leader, where they are blessed. After that, they return, they feast, and go. They declare we're going for a hunt. They go out, walk a few hundred meters, and come back again, sort of limping, symbolically, complaining of thorns in their feet. And they're taken care of by the women, fed properly for another week or so, after which the hunt commences. Now, this is 2 stones at the top of a watchtower, and this is where the people look out for signs of the success of the hunt. People go all around Konso. A lion is hard to come by these days. So is a leopard. So they travel long distances looking for these. And whenever the hunt is successful, a fire is lit. In a way of a signal. A smoke signal is given, and it is from here that people observe the surrounding landscape. It's because it gives you a full view of the surrounding landscape. If a hunt is announced with a smoke signal, then directly overseeing this location is the resident of the Pokoltita who blessed the spears. Her job during the 2 months is to sit outside of her house looking at this place all day. If a smoke signal is released from here, then she announces the success of the hunt with an ululation, and the rest of the women of the village follow her. If a hunt is not successful within 2 months, they go back to the Hoysa. They again implore the sky and the earth to give them the prey they needed. They even mention past hunts from past generations. The lion who so-and-so killed during the time of so-and-so, come out again. Reveal yourselves, and so on and so on. But the Kara cannot conclude without a successful hunt. During this whole time, during these 2 months, no celebrations are allowed in the villages, no marriage ceremonies, no funerals. Even if someone dies, they are unceremoniously buried. No quarrels between people. And all in all, people are supposed to be vigilant and introspective and respectful, not to offend the gods who will then deny the animal. This is another important ritual site. There are also a few Dagadiruma around there, which are too dark to see here. But this is where they meet if they have successfully killed the animal. And from there, they will travel to this. And the distance between these two sides, it takes about, I think it took us about 2 hours to walk this. And you go through farms, through riverbeds, and through vegetation. Like I said, the path is not marked, it's just memorized. From here, of course, they proceed with the trophy. And this was from the Kara ritual in 2025. If hunt is successful, the Pogola announces the success, celebration ensues, and men come with the trophy. Women await the men with refreshing drinks, which they offer. And in return, the men put their this green they're called halala, and they're an important element of Konso culture, because this is an evergreen leaf. Is always green, so it's considered to bestow this on someone is similar to a blessing. It's a sign of prosperity and life and so on. Yeah, so this concludes the hunt. If the hunt happens, I don't know, in the week after the Hoisa, the celebration still continues until the 2 months end. A series of feasts are conducted, but the songs, the nature of the songs change. While the song is about imploring the land and the sky to reveal the lion or the leopard, after the hunt is successful, the songs become quite boastful. They praise the valor, the heroism of the current generation instead of talking about the past. So the focus shifts from the past to the present. And even when connections to the past are done, they are done in parallel with the present. After the conclusion of the hunt comes the erection of the stone stele. Now that the generation has proved its worth by successfully hunting a lion or a leopard, then it is the time to honor them. Honor them not just for this one achievement, but also for what they have done, for how they have performed in the 7 or 11 years they have been responsible for social administration, collective labor, defense, and whatnot. The Daga di Ruma is a stele, a stone stele. We will see a picture of a few ones soon. It is erected after the conclusion of the hunt, every 7 or 11 years, depending on the range. And where it is erected and the size of the stone stele itself are also indicative of how respected that particular generation, that retiring generation is, or how worthy it has been. A council of elders assesses the shortcomings and the achievements of the retiring generation, and they say, okay, they deserve a stone stele this big in this and that place. This is a picture from the last one in October 2025. After erecting the stele, they put halalas on it. They also smear butter on it. These are again, the halala is a sign of prosperity and wealth. So extending even beyond the Kara paths, which I showed earlier, there are stone stelae up north, starting from here, sort of concentrating around here, extending all the way to the settlements, the center of the settlements. The further away a stone is to this path or to the settlements, the least the amount of honor bestowed on that particular generation which the stone represents. The stone that's at the top corner, which is the northernmost stone stele, is this one, and the Daga di Roma is this. This is the Daga di Roma. These are sometimes called Daga Hela, but we are not really sure if that's because a lot of information seems to be contradictory in Konso, and I will come to that. But compare that to this, a tiny stone stele, a stele nevertheless, commemoration, but in the middle of a farm, away from anyone's sight, and so on. All in all, we documented about 42 stone stele representing 31 generations. The number of stele is slightly more than the generation, because sometimes 2 stele are erected for the same generation. One along the paths of the Kara and one inside the settlement. This related with that, but also separated, is the Olahita. While the stone stele is erected every 7 and 11 years, the Olahita is only erected every 18 years to mark the transfer of power from Kalkusa to Hirpa and from Hirpa to Kalkusa. And unlike the Daga di Roma, these are always erected in a mora. The mora is a place of huge cultural significance in Konso. They are usually also within the settlements themselves. The Olahita is a celebration of unity in a way, because thought I had a closer picture of this here, but I don't. The center tree is the one representing the current generation, and the trees, the previous Olahitas before it are tied all around it, but the one by the present generation should always be the tallest. And they leave the top vegetation to sort of indicate growth, and the meaning itself of the Olahita is of one of being many, but still together. So combined, all in all, and one interesting thing about the Olahita is it is not cut. It is uprooted and carried over to the place of its erection without ever touching the ground. The Konso have a slightly complicated relationship with the ground. The earth is considered fertile. It is the source of life and so on, but it is also where the dead end up. And an Olahita tree has to be completely untouched by death. And that's why the green at the top is left. It's still living when it's erected. So all of these, the hunt, the erection of the Daga di Roma, the Olahita, are in a way tastes of strength, valor, and a way of proving worthiness. But they are also a way of remembering the past. But these memories of the past, there are no inscriptions on the Olahita. There are no inscriptions on the Daga di Roma. These memories of the past are organic and fragmented. From the list of Daga di Roma I showed you earlier, some were completely forgotten. People no longer know who that particular Daga di Roma was erected in honor of. But in recent years, we see, in a way, a transition from organic lived memory to archive memory. The Kara, as I said, as I tried to show, is where the present and the past blend, and memory and identity get revived. And relating this to Pierre Nora's sites of memory, as places, objects, concepts, or rituals where a community's collective memory crystallizes, we can see, we can draw parallels between the Kara and this. But unlike archived memory or archival memory, this is lived memory. And in that sense, it's not as neat, it's not as clean, it is not as orderly. These material traces we see in the landscape or in the settlements are not archives of memory themselves, but a way of remembering the past by triggering memory. So are the songs. But this has gradually given way to a form of remembering, a form of memory that closely resembles archival memory. This is a T-shirt worn by a young man during the last Kara, listing the 30 different generations before them. So that organic lived cultural memory of the Kara is already giving way to elements of archived memory. I would like to take a few minutes to make this point, and I will end. Let's talk about imagined communities. I mean, the Konso, for much of their history, were isolated. They were by themselves, and they developed cultures that are unique to them. But with the incorporation of the Konso into the Ethiopian state, and with the introduction of Christianity, they have become more than just the Konso. They have become Ethiopians as well, and they have become members of imagined communities in the Benedict Anderson sense. So now Konso is also a brother in Christ, a sister in Christ of all Christian people. They are also Ethiopian. They although they have never met all Ethiopians, they also identify as Ethiopian. So the emergence of these imagined communities, in a way, is also leaving its mark on how they remember the past, as well as how their past identity alone doesn't define their current identity now. In older moras, you will not see these colors of the Ethiopian state and Ethiopian government. And whereas in the past, the mora dominated the landscape and was the highest, I mean, the largest building in a settlement, now that is a church. And finally was heritageization, and I promise this is the last slide. We also see the emergence of a celebration of heritage rather than heritage that's alive. The Kara, true, it still happens, but the most significant event we witnessed last year, for example, is the annual celebration of the inscription of the Konso cultural landscape into the UNESCO, into the World Heritage List. This has created a whole new event called Hora Ata Konso, which is a celebration of the inscription of the Konso cultural landscape as a victory. So, in place of celebrating culture, celebrating the Kara itself, although that is still happening, More importance, more political commitment is going to celebrating the heritageization of Konso itself. So, in conclusion, I mean, what's the takeaway from all of this is that, yeah, one, cultural landscapes are not and cannot be seen as heritage that's frozen in time. As I said in the beginning, cultural landscapes owe a lot of their existence to the culture that created them, and cultures are always dynamic. They're always in flux. They adapt, they change, they evolve. The only frozen culture is I don't know, a dead culture, if you can talk of culture in that sense. And in that sense, trying to maintain cultural landscapes as they were, as proofs of an era gone by, or as exhibits to a way of life that has existed before, is not possible. It's also quite problematic for a lot of reasons, which I will not go into because of time. Thank you so much for listening. I would love to hear your thoughts and questions.
Thank you so much, Asrat, for this interesting presentation. I think that we still have some time for some questions before going to the exhibition. So please raise your hand, or also online, please write into the chat or raise your yellow hand.
Okay, thanks. Now it's on. Sorry. So again, thank you very much, Asrat, for that really insightful journey into the culture, the heritage of that site. I was intrigued. You often have these groups of youth that migrate to a next higher group cohort. How exactly is that done if you have these 18-year-old or 18-year sections? Do you have like 17-year-olds who have to wait another 18 years until they go into the next group? And then you were saying that the group that hunts the lion has already had some tasks to do in the 7 years before or the 11 years before. So the group that hunts the lions is the 36-plus-year-olds. I got a little bit confused of these cohorts, you know, how they actually operate and how linear it is, this migrating from one cohort to the next one. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yes. Yeah, I don't blame you for being a little bit confused. So were we for several months. First, the transition from one age grade class to the next. There are no neatly divided sections, cross sections of age. So it doesn't happen when everyone, it doesn't happen in such a way that everyone who is 18 now transitions to the next age grade class. It is all individually decided. So let's say I have a son who is 14 now. And the next Kara happens in 7 years. And the one after that happens in 18 years. If he waits for the second Kara, he will be 18 plus 14, about 32. Men, well, it's changing a bit now, but men cannot marry before undergoing a Kara. So the requirement is, would they be old enough for the next Kara to marry? So if he's 14, the next Kara is in 7 years. He will be 14 plus 7, 21. Yes, he will go into the Kara. If he is 6, he is still 13, There is also an addition of I cannot go into the Hela before my older brother. It's quite complicated and it's decided individually. About the hunt, yes, everyone goes for the hunt, including the 30-something year olds, plus the generation below them who will take over. So it's a combined effort. Interesting thing I didn't mention, again for lack of time, is once the Olaita is erected, the new generation needs a name of its own, because each generation has a name. And this name of your generation is as important as your individual name. And they cannot have a name until they, again, complete a successful hunt, but this time all on their own.